Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here and thank you for being on time. We're gonna get started. And I'm just to let you know, this meeting is being recorded and it will be streamed. Okay, today I am so happy to introduce our speaker, Adelina, who is going to talk to us about learner autonomy through teacher autonomy. Leticia Adelina Ruiz Guerrero is a social psychologist. She holds an MA in ELT and has just completed her PhD in education with a focus on learner and teacher autonomy from the University of Nottingham. She is an academic coordinator for the program Certificado de Inglés at the Language Department, head of the Self-Access Language Hub, and main tutor for the Diplomado in Language Learning Advising at ITESO, the Jesuit University in Guadalajara. During Adelina's presentation, feel free to raise your hand and use the chat box to ask any questions or comments you may have as the session progresses. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Adelina. Go ahead.
Thank you, Alejandra. Thank you. Can you tell me if you can hear me okay? Is my volume all right? Yeah?
Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent. Okay. So yes, like Alejandra was just saying, any questions or comments you might have, please do let us know. Don't wait until the end. I think this could be much more productive as a conversation rather than me just talking. So do let us know as we go ahead. If you have anything that you want to ask about or comment on, please.
Can I comment on something? Can I interrupt you?
Yes,
I want to say
please.
hi to you, Ade.
Hey!
How are you?
I know this woman.
I know you know me.
How are you, Marisa?
Oh, good. So happy to see you, Ade.
You too. We need to catch up.
Yeah, indeed. Look forward to listening to you.
Thank you for being here, Marisa. Thank you. And everybody else also, thank you very much for being here and giving us a little bit of your time to hear us talk about this. I'm just realizing that I put white letters and that there's a white background there, so you probably can't see that, but let me just go like this so you can see this part. And that might happen somewhere along the line during the presentation because, of course, this was designed over darker background, and now we're going to see if my design choices really worked or not. Okay, you'll let me know if there's anything where I can put my hand to let you see. Okay, so like I said, let's make this a conversation. All right, anything you want to comment on or ask, please do go ahead. Don't wait for me to see you because I have two screens here, one where I can see Zoom and another screen where I can see my presentation. So I may not always see you raising your hand, but well, Alejandra is here too to help me. So we can let you go ahead with your questions or comments, all right? All right, well, I guess we should get started. This presentation is, the idea is to try and tell you a little bit about this project that we went through at the language department at this university where I work. This was a research project that we worked on together for quite a while, for some time, and I'm going to try and tell you a little bit about the experience. And I think the biggest part is to try and let you know what we learned from the experience and to hear what you think about it. And in case you wanted to try something like this, or whatever lessons we learned from it, if they can help other communities, that would be also a very good way to contribute to this world of language teaching that we live in. All right. So to start with, let me tell you a little bit about my context in general. I work at ITESO. I don't know how many of you are familiar with our institution. We're the Jesuit University here in Guadalajara. We are part of the Jesuit University system. That means that we are basically an Ibero, but we don't have the Ibero in our name, okay? But it's the same thing. If you know of Ibero in Mexico City or Ibero in León or Ibero in Puebla, we're the same sister universities, okay? We're part of the same system here in Mexico. We're just called different, but it's the same thing basically, okay? So what this means is that we are an educational institution that is based in Ignatian pedagogy. And this looks a certain way. Ignatian pedagogy, for example, takes into consideration things like acompañamiento, which is a very nice, positive word, I think, for being there with another person, right? And being there first as a human being and then doing the work, whichever that might be, you know, as a teacher or as a co-worker, as part of this community that we try to be part of, okay? Another thing that Jesuit universities have in common is an interest in what is called the cura personalis, which is this being there for another person, doing our best to help each other to be part of a community and not just excel academically, right? But form a sense of community. We have a somewhat unique style of leadership that we aim for. Certain authors have called this, for example, heroic leadership. If you wanted to read more about it, you could look it up along that title. It's a very interesting leadership style. I have found that it has helped me in many different ways in different aspects of my life, not just my teaching or the work that I do as a coordinator. So if you're interested in reading more about this, I would suggest that you look this up, okay? How are we doing so far? You okay?
All good, Ale. Very good.
All righty. Okay, so something that I do here, for example, at ITESO, is I am part of the Programa Certificado de Inglés, what we call the PCI. And my job is basically in the academic coordination, and I specialize in the basic levels of this language program, okay? I coordinate levels A1 through A2. For us, those are 4 different levels, you know, even though it's just A1 and A2. What that means is that I have to be part of the decision-making team that deals with all the academic stuff for you know, the program itself. It also means that I coordinate a team of teachers. All the teachers who work in those specific levels are under my coordination. I also do teaching in those levels. That's part of something that we do in our program. Whoever's doing the academic coordination or working with teachers, we also have to teach in those same levels, so that we are in the front lines, really seeing what things are like and not just hiding in our offices doing the thinking. We also have to deal with real situations in classrooms and to see what our decisions look like once you have to deal with things with students, okay? Also, part of my job is to oversee the logistics for the level exams and the overall teaching calendar that we use for the program. So I do a lot of little things in between, making academic decisions and accompanying teachers. All right. The other big thing that I do here as part of the language department is I run the hub. The hub is the physical part that students get to interact most with from everything that the department does. We are based in the library here at ITESO, and our job is to basically be there for students to help them through their language learning journey, to help them try and own up their process, to help them learn to learn, you know, these learner autonomy things that we're going to be discussing during the rest of the talk. This would be what you would basically know as a self-access center, okay? I know that certain institutions have them here in Mexico, not all of them. And for some institutions, they were known as language labs, but with a twist, right? We have a different look nowadays than we used to back in the 80s when all of these different self-access centers started here in Mexico. So that's in terms of my context. I don't know if you have any questions so far about all of this. Do any of you have experience in self-access centers? Is that something that you have in your institution?
Yeah, I have a question. What is the connection?
Please.
Yeah, hi, Adelina.
Hi.
What is the connection
Hi.
with the University of Nottingham? I heard University of Nottingham at the beginning.
Right. The connection is that I did both my master's and my PhD with them.
Okay.
And actually, my whole journey in learner autonomy started out with that master's degree quite a few years ago, learning about learner autonomy under Barbara Sinclair there in Nottingham.
Okay. And you're transferring these skills that you learned to this institution in, where is it?
We're here based in Guadalajara.
In Guadalajara. Okay, great.
Exactly.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for clarifying that.
No. Thank you for asking. Yeah, and maybe I'm assuming that everybody's here in Guadalajara, but not all of you are, right?
No, I'm talking from Puebla, actually, not England, but I'm interested to know, obviously, because I'm English. So.
Right. Yes. Well, this whole started there, so it's a good thing that you asked this question.
Okay.
To give me a chance to clarify that. Thank you for that.
Thanks a lot.
All righty. If anything else from anybody else before we carry on? Nope. All righty. Okay, so in general then, that was the context. And in more specific, well, everything I'm gonna, tell you about during this talk, it comes down to my work in the Language Hub, okay? This is my main interest and my main job here at the university. My job is to make decisions for the Self-Access Center here at the language department in ITESO. And just to make sure that we're all understanding the same thing or we're all on the same page, I have this very concise definition as to what a self-access center is, at least what it is nowadays, not what it used to be back in the 80s when these places started sprouting here in Mexico. What we are nowadays is we are basically a social learning environment. Whatever goes on in the classroom is fine. The classroom has its place in this process, but our job is to accompany that process. The teacher makes decisions for the classroom, the student makes decisions for the self-access center. So what we are is basically a facility that has comfortable seating, a lot of materials and different types of resources. We provide services, and our job is basically to provide this environment where the learner can make decisions for him or herself, and to tie that up with whatever is happening in the classroom or not. We get people here who are not necessarily taking classes, formally in a classroom, but who just want the opportunity to practice or learn or fine tune a language that they've been studying. Okay, and that's our job, to be here for them, to provide a space for them to be able to do that. And so, well, what we're betting on is that you're going to be far more effective in your language learning journal, because you will be able to combine a formal setting, a classroom setting, for example, with this also, the work that you might do in an environment such as ours. All right. Okay, so one of the big things that we provide our students with is the advising and tutoring program. In Spanish, we call it PAT. And no, it doesn't mean, it's not someone's name, we're not talking about dear Miss Pat. We're talking about the Programa de Asesorías y Tutorías. And again, that's where I realized that I put white letters where I was going to use a white background. Okay, so it's Programa de Asesorías y Tutorías. That's why it's called PAT. Okay, and right here, what you have on the screen is a sample of the kind of schedules that we're running for learners throughout a semester. This was, for example, our offer for this spring 2021. And what this is we make ourselves available right now because of the situation. Everything is done online through a Zoom session where students just click in and come join us to work with us in either, asking questions, asking for suggestions, for materials, for interaction, whatever they might need. We're just here for them. Okay. All right. How are we doing so far? Are there any questions or comments? What do you think about this thing?
Adelina?
Yes, please.
How do the students get the opportunity to share what they have done in their self-access center? I mean, in the classroom, like having the others know they are working on their own and being autonomous. We're talking about something like vicarious learning, which, I mean, we praise those students who are doing well, and the others want to be like them. So do they have this opportunity in the classroom to share what they have learned or what they have seen?
Yes, actually, it's something that we encourage a lot, because some students are better at having learning strategies or practice strategies. And so we encourage a lot of sharing in the classroom, like, what are you doing? So tell us what's working, what's not working. What have you done so far that you've liked? It's a conversation that we definitely, purposefully make happen in the classroom. And they also, they do these journal entries where they have to keep track of what they did when they came to the hub. And they can do these journal entries in writing or record a video or send an audio. It's a way for them and for us also to sort of, keep track of what is happening, what things they have tried, if they've been successful or not. Sometimes you learn more from the things that you decide to do that don't work out than from the things that do work out. And so, yes, students keep track of these things. And for example, some of these journal entries, we get to share with the rest of the class. When you find something that was very well reflected on, well done, it's something that we open up and discuss with the group. Just like you said, to encourage this, sense of sharing and why not, modeling from someone who's found a good way to learn something or practice something and model it to the rest of the classmates. Yes. I should also say and point out that students in our program get points, an allowance of points if they come for a certain number of visits to the hub. It's just 10% of a total grade. Doesn't really amount to much, but at least it's a way of trying to incentivize and motivate students to come and try it out. We only do it up to certain levels, from beginners to level 6. And the last levels, we don't give these points. And what we're betting on is that students understand and learn the benefit of doing this, and they keep coming back. And they do. We do get students who, even though they're no longer in a basic level, they're no longer getting the points to come in to the hub, they still come back and work with tutors or come to conversation clubs or anything else that we're putting out there for them. Yes, thank you for that question. That was a good opportunity to explain this. Anybody else? Any other comments or questions you might have about this?
Well, Ade,
Yes, please.
I'm a bit biased on this. I had the fortune of being part of the hub and also the Programa de Asesorías and Tutorías, but I think you should also talk about all the activities that happen there, because of course they have incredible material to work with, but also, yeah, there are teachers who are tutors, and just, we sit there, but students come and they ask you for things, they ask you for help. But you also have like all these different, you mentioned conversation club, but you also have these sessions of preparation for exams. And it's, again, it's biased, but it's a successful model. It's like an overall model to think about.
Yeah.
It's really successful at it. So
yeah, it's thank you for saying that. I was going to be very demure about all of this and just point out the most relevant things for this. But yes, you are right. It is not just the one thing. It's a whole environment where we try and provide for students, and whatever we offer has come from students' requests or from the conversations that we have with them. Whatever they decide that this would be helpful, we try and provide it. So there are certain staples that are the same thing every semester. For example, the offer for tutors and advisors is there semester after semester in as wide a schedule as possible. And we also have the conversation clubs that happen also throughout the week. We offer conversation clubs in as many languages as we can possibly provide for students, not just English, although English is the main interest here at ITESO. And we have support from not just teachers, but also from students. We have, for example, in this tutoring and advising program, the tutors and advisors are not just teachers. We also have peer tutors. These are other students who are, either completed and certified their English or other languages, and they come back and work with other students. And that has been a very successful, part of the program as well. It's very helpful to talk to a teacher. Teachers have the experience and knowledge, everything, but it's also a very good thing for students to talk to other students, in the same sense as that previous question. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but it's part of this modeling, another student who is done with English or, who's certified his level of language and who's now helping a peer, either answering questions or giving them advice about what worked for them and all of that. That has turned out to be one of the best things that we have, done for the services that we provide through the hub. Students really appreciate that opportunity to have another, young person telling them what worked for them, what didn't work for them. Sometimes they pay more attention, to another student than to the very experienced teacher. So it's nice to have that option for them to choose. Okay. I just wanted to quickly mention this distinction because, as you can see in the name of the program, we talk about tutors and we talk about advisors. And for us, there is a difference between being a tutor and being an advisor. So, for example, for us, tutoring is the kind of job that you do that is more, specifically linguistically centered, like an academic discussion with the learner, where if you have doubts about a specific grammar point, or you're looking at something specific from your course that you need help with, that's the discussion that you have with a tutor. It's to do with someone who's a little bit above level from you, who can help you work something out. In that sense, the tutor is this sort of facilitator of language learning. And this is the role, for example, that other students can play, because it's a student who is at a higher level from another student and who's helping the other person, understand something better, figure it out, do what they can to really grasp that knowledge. And the role of the advisor is a little bit different from that. It's actually done from a much broader perspective. The advisor is not just someone who can help you figure out how to understand the passive voice. The advisor is someone who is there to teach you or to help you learn how to reflect about your learning, how to make a plan, how to set goals, how to decide what it is that you need and what it is that you already have to approach those goals, and what you still need to work on. Okay, the advisor role then is a much wider presence there, especially in this learning autonomy journey. If we really want students to be able to do without needing us so much, then this work that they get to do with an advisor is key, because it's through that dialogue and reflections and conversations with the advisor that the learner really starts to understand what his or her own process is. It's not just about, I need a quick answer because I have a quiz in an hour. It's about the long game, really learning to know myself and to, figure out what my strengths are, what my areas of opportunity are, and to focus and, to make informed decisions and so on and so forth. Okay. So this role of the advisor for us is central to what goes on in the Self-Access Center. All right. So what do you think? Any questions about this? Any comments? What do you think about this distinction between a tutor and advisor? Does it make sense to you?
Adelina, we have some comments and questions in the chat box.
Yes, please.
First from Eva Garcia. She mentions that everything's great. In her personal experience, these talks are awesome because in her school, they don't have these kind of programs. And then we also have the comment from Iliana Uabi. How do we set up a hub in our school? What steps should we follow? Is there a platform you could recommend?
Okay, well, let me tell you quickly about this. This could be actually as simple or as complicated as you have money for. You have little money, you can have a little hub. If you have a little bit of a more, a nicer budget, then you can have a space like the one we have here at ITESO. For example, in my experience, when I started doing work on developing autonomy for students, I did it in a secondary and high school where I was working at the time. And my Self-Access Center was a little box with files, and that was it. I would carry my box around from classroom to classroom as I went to teach my different classes. That was my Self-Access Center. And what that was just a variety of activities. This is something terrible that I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. I used to tear apart books and separate the pages so that with one book, I could have 80 different tasks that students could do at the same time. So that could be a start of a hub, of a self-access center. As long as you have materials, and nowadays we have access to so much online, printable materials that you can get access to. Just having access to, YouTube channels for different, you don't have to have your own channel. You can subscribe to a Nat Geo channel or a BBC channel or a British Council channel. And as long as students have access to those things to do something else besides what goes on in the classroom, you're creating these type of spaces. Whatever software you can get your hands on, readers, for example, graded readers are a great resource in a self-access center. Little books, these bookworm series that they have from different publishers that come in different grades for students to read. Anything you can get your hands on that has language on it can become your facilities, your little hub. What I can recommend, and maybe Ali, you can help me put this down on the chat there. There's a journal that is published for self-access matters. The journal is called SISAL, SISAL, SISAL. And what it is all of us who work in self-access around the world, whatever we can share of our experience, we publish it in that journal. Okay, and you can read about the experiences that different self-access centers have around the world. We certainly from ITESO, we publish whatever works. We try and come up with a regular stream of articles that we can post there with them to share our experience and to see what we have learned. The other thing that could happen is you can approach anyone who is part of a self-access center. We would be more than happy to help you get started, set up something. It's just a matter of wanting to start. And I've spoken too much about this. Is there another question?
Maritza Garcia has raised her hand.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me speak. Well, just wanted to share that I hear that all my colleagues saying that, well, in Normales, we don't have English labs, or we don't have this facilities that would help us with our work. Well, let me tell you that in my normal school, which is in Matehuala, San Luis Potosí, they let us join or participate in a program that is called the EDINEN process, which is like worked like every year. It is, well, the purpose of this program is to get money from government and better the facilities or all the things that we have in the Normales. And well, last year, we proposed, as the English team, proposed to include a project for a self-access center in our school. And we were just like throwing a coin to the air, like, okay, si pega, good. If it doesn't, well, we were like before. We'll be like before. Well, the thing and the good thing, the surprising thing was that they accepted it. And we were like, we got crazy with the news, right? Well, we were like, incredible. They accepted our proposal instead of investigation projects or instead of any other thing that you may imagine and that you have seen in Normales. Well, the project for self-access center was accepted. And by now, we already have the building. It doesn't have any furniture. It doesn't have anything.
You need to start somewhere.
No furniture, no materials, nothing, but the building.
Okay.
But the good thing is that, well, our principal told us, okay, it's gonna be by steps. So first thing is you got it approved, and next step is, well, you will have to ask in another paper, in another editing, you will have to ask for the furniture, for the televisions, for the, I don't know, we even thought of having Blu-rays, books, laptops, an area for videos, and well, crazy things. We're still thinking like this.
Perfect.
But
I say go big. Go big.
Yeah. We went big, and it was accepted. So I'm telling you guys to try asking for it on the next EDINEN in your escuelas normales. English in the English program in normales has been like a bomb, right? And they are still working in it. So we are like the pioneers on this. And well, let's just try and
make it happen.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Okay, thank you.
Make it happen. That's great. Thank you. Congratulations. That is a great thing that you accomplished. So congratulations on that. And I would say, you know, my dad used to say, no hay peor lucha que la que no se hace. So you just ask for things and they give them to you, great. And if not, like you said, well, we didn't have them, so it's all right. Thank you.
Adelina,
thank you,
we have another hand raised by Brenda Bolain.
Yes, please.
Oh, me again. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Thank you. Tell us.
Adelina, I think, well, and everybody, I think that, well, the pandemic and the virtuality opened a plethora of opportunities to explore digital tools. We might not have a facility or a space to set up a self-access center, but what about creating choice boards? It is a wonderful opportunity for students to choose what they want to work on, and you are fostering autonomy too, and well, you are also catering for students' needs and differentiating, because they are choosing what they want to do, and those choice boards are wonderful wonderful tools to get your students to work in an autonomous way. And why not collaboratively? You can lead them to a Padlet, a Flipgrid, and have them work on a forum or post comments on something. They can even take screenshots and send you this evidence for you to know who is working on your choice boards. And they can be done collaboratively too, because you can work with your team of teachers. Okay, and I don't know, we don't need like much money.
I mean, it's nice to have the building. It's nice to have the building, but you can certainly go ahead with, you know, something as simple as that.
Yeah, the main aim is to get our students work in an autonomous way. So why not start taking this advantage?
Yes. And what happens here, for example, when you have a program like this one, where you have dedicated tutors and advisors, is that the teacher doesn't have to do that double work, right? You as a teacher, you deal with what goes on in your classroom, and then you pass on the rest of the responsibilities to the tutors and advisors in the path, where the student who really wants to do this comes in, works with us. They do all of these activities with us. We see the evidence of what they're building, of how they're doing. We answer their questions. And so we work as a team, you know, the classroom together with the hub, and we build more because there's more of us. There's a bigger effort going on. in doing this work together. Okay, so definitely, absolutely. I'd say you can start small, or you can go for broke, ask for a building. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? You might get a building. So yeah, it's just a matter of wanting to get started, as you say. All righty. Do we have anything else? Should I carry on? Are there any other comments or
Yes,
questions?
there are several questions in the chat box.
Okay.
We have, what are the background concepts or theories behind your concepts for the hub? And what suggestions, what resources, what type of furniture? And is there any training you provide to tutors or advisors to participate in the program? Moni talks here.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I'll tell you a little bit about all of this somewhat quickly. The thing is, once you start thinking about setting up, this sort of learning environment, well, you need to start reading up on it, especially because self-access centers began as a very controlled thing way back when, in the 80s. Nowadays, we have a different face. Whatever self-access center was founded in the 80s, when the British Council first started doing this, probably doesn't look the same as a self-access center that is set up nowadays, okay? For example, that was the case for us here at ITES. So we started out as a language lab, those labs where you had these headphones and tape recorders, and students were in little boxes where you couldn't talk to the person next to you, and you were just repeating and repeating sentences. Well, that used to be a lab, and we have evolved now to this sort of space that you see in the pictures that I shared with you. What we have in our space is something that is designed to foster socializing, to start with, collaboration. Students work together. We have computers and spaces where you can work on your own if that's what you want, but the space itself is a free space where people can walk around. We have couches and chairs and tables and bookcases with a whole lot of stuff. Before we finish, I can walk with my computer to the space so you can see it, because I'm here. I'll show you what it looks like, even though it's empty right now because we don't get a lot of visitors these days. Everything is online. There are a lot of authors that you can read on self-access, but I would recommend that you start reading first about autonomy in general, okay? Get into autonomy, read about learner autonomy, and then it's gonna be like, going down a rabbit hole. You're going to find a lot of stuff that you could become interested in. There are specific textbooks to set up a self-access center. And nowadays, I would say that the most, I would say if you go to this journal that I was telling you about, this is where you're going to find the most updated research on what is actually happening right now in terms of self-access these days, okay? So you can buy a book that was published 15 years ago, or you can read something in the journal about what we are doing today. So I say go for the journal, and as you read articles throughout that journal, you're going to find bibliography of the things that you might become interested in, okay? How are we doing? Am I sort of answering all of these questions, even though I'm going kind of fast here?
Yes, we're doing great.
Yep. Okay. If there's anything else more specific that you want me to touch on, please do let me know. Should we carry on? How are we doing? There's one question there about training and preparation for the advisors that I think is going to be answered with the next part of the presentation. Okay, so are we okay then?
Yes.
All righty, so let me carry on then, telling you a little bit about this. This project that I wanted to, explore with you, became part of our daily lives for quite a while, because we were trying to decide how to this question that you just read from someone there that was the key question. How do we go from being regular teachers, tutors, who can answer questions about grammar, to being this person who helps a student really explore his own process and develop autonomy and really own up to the responsibility that they're supposed to feel in building up to their own process. And so let me just quickly show you some of the thinking behind this. Okay, this is, what needs to happen here is that if you're going to accompany another person in developing autonomy, well, maybe the first thing that needs to happen is you need to become aware of where you stand in terms of your own autonomy. How well do you know you? How did you learn? How do these things in your own, life, in your own way of having learned, studied, and worked and so on affect what you do with learners when you're with them, either as a teacher, a tutor, or if you're hoping to become an advisor? David Little tells us that if you are really going to be the sort of teacher who promotes autonomy in their learners, well, maybe it should be something that you know more intimately. Maybe it should be something that has been part of your own life. Because if you understand it from within, it is easier for you to then walk someone through that process. If you're a complete stranger to this, then it's very difficult for you to accompany somebody else to develop this, okay? And Phil Benson, let me just put my hand here so you can read that part. He says that, well, if you want to change learners, you need to start with teachers. Us teachers, we need to be the first ones who understand better this, who grasp what it means to, understand what, someone with autonomy can do. And to do that, well, then maybe we need to go through all of this process ourselves. And those of us who are Mexican, who, I was, from kindergarten up to my bachelor's degree, I studied here in Mexico. I was, formed in this system. And in our Mexican system, I don't think we aim for autonomy intentionally, okay? Whatever happens in terms of autonomy in our teaching normally has to do just with preferences from the teacher, but it's not something that our system really fosters by design. So this may be something that we are not very much, aware of how to develop it for ourselves, because we were not led that way necessarily, at least not my generation or, people around my age. I'm sure that maybe younger teachers have lived through hopefully different ways of learning, but definitely I don't remember ever having been given a choice in anything to do with my schooling. I was never given choices. I was told what to do at every step of the way for everything. So it's very difficult, to have never been given choices and then suddenly be expected to make decisions. How do you do that if you don't even know what choices look like, right? So in that sense, we had this challenge here. So how do we help learners develop autonomy if we ourselves are not very much aware what autonomy looks like, because we were not raised in that way, or we were not educated in that way, okay? And well, if you think about autonomy, there's an expectation as to what autonomy looks like in learning. There are those, for example, who talk about autonomy in terms of the learner has all the decisions in their process, or should have all the decisions in their process. Maybe that's an extreme, right? Well, we don't get to live things to that point, not when you're part of a school or where you have to, you know, be part of a specific program. But certainly if someone wanted to learn, I don't know, if I wanted to learn Portuguese and I don't want to sign up to a school, then I would have to make all of these decisions for myself. And so do I have the autonomy to do this, to take care of this process, to make my own choices? Well, if I've never lived that, maybe I don't even know what that looks like, right? There are those who talk about autonomy as a capacity, for example. And me personally, I like that point of view. To me, capacity sounds very positive. It's like something I can actually develop, you know? It's not something that I'm born with or not born with. It's something that I can, you know, figure out, learn, develop. And so to me, that sounds like something I can do, like something I can get. Also, well, autonomy is a big thing because if you think about it, giving autonomy or allowing autonomy in people, in young people especially, means helping them shape their lives forever and ever. You know, it's not just about learning English. It's a big gift to be allowed to grow up making your own decisions and learning who you are and knowing where your strengths lie and where you need to put more attention to your weak spots or your areas of opportunity. And that's what autonomy is about, you know. It's self-knowledge, first and foremost. And what else does it say here? Learn. Yeah, sorry. The little L there was missing. So this is something that is built in, you know, in a learning environment. It's built together, you know, between teacher and student. It's not just something that teachers do to their students. You cannot magically make your students autonomous. Okay, there's a very fine balance between what you do for your students and what you let your students do, and how much you let go so that they can take charge. So it's something that you need to work on together as a team. And so if you consider all of these thoughts and thinking, well, there's a lot there that we can do. There's a big world out there that we can help our students, you know, in and encourage and help them. And what I see is that the gift of autonomy is something that students can take and use anywhere in their professional lives, not just in classrooms. So there's a lot that we can do for them if we just help them develop autonomy. Okay. What we did, for example, I'm sorry, I've spoken a lot again. Is there anything, any questions or comments here before I carry on?
Yes, we have comments in the chat box from Marisa. She says that we work in Normales schools, and in my experience, a self-access center had been a project for some years, and it was finally done about a year after I started working there. Having worked and studied at the UNAM, I had an idea and success stories in autonomous learning. However, in this Normal, the rest of the teachers and authorities do not allow students to attend as they please, but rather force them and assign timetables and make them fulfill tasks rather than fostering autonomy. And she adds that at one point, access to the self-access center was forbidden during the time other classes were scheduled, that it's from 8 to 4. And Jorge Patiño asks, do you make the students' attendance depend on getting extra or bonus points? I don't think that promotes their autonomy.
We do have 10% of their grade in the first 6 levels is attached to them completing 7 visits in the semester. It's a low number of visits, and they can come or not. It's just 10% of their grade. And we do that only for the basic levels, 1 through 6. After that, there's no points attached to anything if they, you know, in a higher level, they want to come or not. What we're aiming for is to get the students through the door, because if they don't come and they don't see what we can do, and they don't see what the benefits are of being here, then we don't get a chance to to dazzle them and to show them how much they can get out of this. So yes, we do have points for the first levels. And what ends up happening that we have seen is that students little by little understand better the benefits of doing this. And so they don't need that, carrot in front of them to come back later. We do get, for example, a lot of students who completely finish the program. We actually get people, alumni, graduates of the university who come back and use the services of the hub on their own. And I mean, they're not students anymore, but they understand what they can do here, and they come back and use that years and years after they have finished. So yes, we do that at the beginning, because you got to get them through the door somehow. I mean, if I could offer them candy, I would. I have no problem with that. So ideally, this is also part of why we have a fun design here in the building. We want to make the environment very welcoming. We want them to feel comfortable here. Some students just come because it's nice and we have air conditioning and it's hot outside, so anything to get them through the door, I'm okay with that. I have no qualms with that. And so, yes, once they're here and they see what they can get out of it, then they'll come back. Mm-hmm.
And Gabriela Casillas has raised her hand, and we have some more comments in the chat box.
Right. Tell us.
Hi, Adelina. How are you?
Hi there.
I have a question, Adelina. Can
Please.
autonomy be, is it the same to build up or to start fostering autonomy with students who come from very different backgrounds? For example, I guess that the young students attending ITESO have had very different learning histories, learning experiences to our students, to our normal students. Some of the normales are in urban areas, but some other are in rural areas. Well, and also not only the students' view of what is learning, but also the people that is leading our institutions. We have just talked about, I think Ale mentioned in this in the comment section, that our principals, our headmasters, don't understand what autonomy is about and what self-access is about. So how can we start learning, how can we start promoting autonomy when the conditions are not ideal, not only because of the life experiences of our students, but also because of the bureaucracy in, the lack of knowledge about it in terms of the institutions themselves.
Yeah. I would think that this is a struggle, and you have to be willing to go through the struggle, because you understand what's, at the end of the tunnel. It requires energy, and it requires, a degree of dedication, you wanting to do this for your students as well as teach them English. And I think it can start with very simple little things. It doesn't have to be something big from the start, so you don't scare them. It could be little things, sometimes just, for example, a simple thing like when you give your students homework, do you always choose everything they do? Do you always make the decisions yourself? Because, developing autonomy in a learner starts with even a simple thing like, okay, for homework, you have to read, you have to read an article. But guess what? I'm giving you 3 possible articles. You choose which one you want to read. It doesn't matter which one you choose, because the teacher already, looked at the articles and chose them for a reason. But the fact that you're allowing the student the choice of which of the 3 to read is already developing autonomy. You're first of all, you're trusting the student to choose whatever he's going to pick for whatever reason. And it's that act in itself is, showing that you trust the student, and that's the first step in building autonomy. I would say you can start with little things like that, and as you grow to bigger decisions, I think you can start solidifying your arguments to bring this up to your authorities, to your principals, to your coordinators, and build a case for it. Maybe it's not something that you're going to do overnight, that suddenly you're going to get a self-access center or you're going to get training for everyone on learner autonomy, but at least it will start being something. You have to start somewhere. So start somewhere, start with yourself. When you organize your lesson plan, how much of that is just you thinking what your students need? Have you asked them what they need? Have you asked them what works for them, what doesn't work for them? Do they even know what works for them or what doesn't work for them? Because you can start by helping them reflect on that. And that's supporting autonomy. The more I learn about myself, the more I am in charge of my process because I can make decisions for me. That's building autonomy. So how much of that is part of your teaching? Because if there isn't much of that, then you can start there with those little things, those little changes that start, giving you the arguments to then take up to the person who makes the decisions, Yes, a lot of this depends on the gatekeepers. And unfortunately, a lot of the gatekeepers don't really see what this is about. But that's part of our job, right? To show our students and the rest of our team, our peers, our colleagues, that this can also be good. You can just teach English. There's nothing wrong with that. Or you can teach English and help your students develop autonomy. You're already there, putting in the time and the energy and the effort. Might as well do that little bit extra as well. Because English, they can forget if they stop using it. But, owning up your process and learning about who you are, that's something that they take away with them. And that helps them for the rest of their lives. So I see that as a much bigger gain than just, being very good at explaining the passive voice. All right, I'm running out of time, and I just want to tell you how we have dealt with this ourselves here in our department and in the hub. What we did was we found a way to experiment with ourselves, to experience this for ourselves. We put ourselves out there and we did an experiment to see what it was like to go at this and try and learn about our own autonomy so that we could then help our students develop their own autonomy. This was part of the research project that ended up being my PhD. I did gain something out of this, people live the experience, but I got a PhD out of it. So what we did was we created a project where we shared responsibility by making decisions together. We learned to reflect on our teaching and our learning and our process. We asked for and gave support, worked collaboratively, and we formed a community where we learned together. And then we put it all together into a diplomado. This diplomado, 120 hours of training, has become the ruta, the way that we train advisors here at the department. Anybody who wants to learn about autonomy and how to accompany a student, a learner, to develop autonomy goes through this training process where they get to experience autonomy for themselves as a learner, learn about it for themselves, and then learn how to do this with another person. How do I walk with you in the process of developing your own autonomy? Okay. So we have done this through, let me just quickly go through this as I've already explained it to you. Okay. So what this has become is not just for language teachers. When we started the diplomado a few years ago, the only people who took it were actually English teachers. But over the years, we have started to invite anybody in our university who wants to take it. This last iteration of the diplomado, we have two groups, two different separate groups. There are about 20, 25 people in each group. And we have people from all across campus, from the different departments. There are engineers and lawyers and people from the marketing team or architects. Anybody who works with learners is invited and welcome to come to the experience. Because the whole point is to build a sense of how I better understand autonomy so that I can be there for somebody else in their process of developing their own autonomy. Okay. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to launch a little commercial here. This is what it is. It's the Diplomado en Asesoría para el Aprendizaje Autónomo. We run it through, our campus. And with the contingency, we now do it online because nobody could come to campus. So this has been something that we've been doing fully online to cater to everybody who's needed this, especially this past year when people have had to rely more on their own resources. If you're not very good at managing your own time, if you don't know what works for you, then you are very inefficient and you can't work without a teacher in front of you telling you what to do all the time. And that's not ideal for this new lifestyles that we're developing nowadays. Okay, is there anything else? I think we only have 3 minutes left. I'm sorry about that for taking so much time and not letting you ask questions or comment. Is there anything else?
Yes, we have several comments in the chat box. We have, excuse me. Would it be that we teachers and trainers need some retraining or more professional development to change our mindset regarding autonomy? I think this kind of experience, exchange, set background, and how things can be done differently and better. How can we take advantage of your experience in the Self-Access Center in order to encourage basic level students' autonomy that could help us perform distance learning in an educational system where behaviorist practices predominate?
Yeah, those are very good questions. Let me answer the first one, which was about, sorry.
Yeah, changing our mindset regarding
Yes.
autonomy.
Thank you, Alejandra. Yes, there's actually a phrase that I really like from one of the authors that I often work with. And what he says is that teachers need to start learning, or teachers need to train to stop teaching. Okay. If you want to become a real partner in this development autonomy, you have to train yourself to let go of that sense that everything depends on me. I make all the choices. I make all the decisions. I'm responsible for everything. If the student passes or fails, it's because of me. Well, no, autonomy starts with assuming responsibility for your own choices, and, whatever actions I put forward, then I need to live with those consequences. And so, yes, it does require a lot of rethinking, reshaping, at least a lot of reflecting. And so, the first step is recognizing that you need that, like in Alcoholics Anonymous, the first step is to recognize you're an alcoholic. That's the first thing here. If you can recognize for yourself that it would be a good idea for you to start thinking about things differently, then you're in a good place. You've started thinking about it, right? Okay. How can you take advantage of what we have learned? Well, ask questions, come visit, talk to us, learn from the years that we have of experience doing this, and learning from our mistakes. Don't repeat our mistakes. We can teach you where we went wrong and what didn't work. And if you still want to try it to see if it works for you, fine, but at least hear from the people who've been doing it for a little longer. I've been working in autonomy projects for 21 years now. So anything I can share with you from my experience of working with autonomy at junior high, high school, and college level, I'd be more than happy to work with you. Please do let us know. This is how I give back, okay? My university paid for my doctorate. It's now time that I give back, and pass on everything that we have learned from this experience. So I'd be more than glad to be there for you. Okay. I don't know if I've answered all the questions. You have my email there on the screen.
There are many more questions and comments, but unfortunately we're just running out of time. So I think that by leaving your contact information, that would be nice in case everyone wants to contact you and ask further questions. And thank you so much for leaving us with so much to think about. You have given us great steps on how to begin. And on behalf of Benemérita and Centenaria Escuela Normal de Jalisco, I'd like to present you with this certificate of attending and presenting. Benemérita y Centenaria Escuela Normal de Jalisco otorga la presente constancia a Leticia Adelina Ruiz Guerrero por su valiosa contribución como ponente de la ponencia extensa Learner Autonomy through Teacher Autonomy en el marco de Congreso Nacional de Formadores C en Escuelas Normales 2021. Thank you so much, Adelina. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you guys for the invitation and for listening to me. More than happy to be here with you. And yes, my email is adelina@iteso.mx. Yes.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for your active participation in the chat box and also by raising your hand. I'd like to remind you that we are now on our lunch break and we will come back at 3:30 with the final conference of the day by Ellen Emelson. So it's at 3:30. It's just through streaming. So please make sure you have the right link in your program. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.